Welcome to my fourth video about how to write a song. We've covered chorus, we've covered verse, and now we are obviously on to bridge. To gather the information we need, I've analysed these 10 songs. Bridges are usually used to help increase the impact of the final climax. Most often there's a step back in intensity, and if there's going to be a musical break, this is where it's usually going to land. It's quite common for songs to start with a low intensity first verse, have the first climax being the first chorus. We take a step back in intensity for the second verse, but make sure that it's more intense than the first verse. Then we step up for the bigger climax that is the second chorus. If we continue this pattern, we run the risk of leaving nowhere to go. Instead of this, it can be a great idea to take a huge leap back in energy. This will give your final chorus way more impact, even if it's absolutely identical to the first or second chorus. Naturally, you don't have to take a step back in energy if you don't want to, but this is a tried and tested method, and it's repeated over and over because it works. And realistically, you're probably wanting this final chorus to give your listener an active response. Whether that response is to move their body or feel an emotion or interact with the song in some way, it's entirely up to you. But I don't believe that you want them to get to the final chorus and have the desire to not pay attention, or even worse, to skip the rest of your masterpiece. Personally, I had a huge revelation when I was dissecting all these bridges. It's kind of crazy. I've written hundreds of songs and this process is really intuitive to me. But no matter how experienced I think I may be, there's always loads to learn. I'll share more about this at the end of the video. Trends. Let's look at the common trends we found and see what simple rules we can pull out of our list of songs. Number 1, bridges are totally optional. 2 of our 10 songs had nothing that could be considered a bridge, and one of those songs was a stylized verse. Number 2, the bridge is the place to experiment. Number 3, creative space was used in one way or another in every single one of the bridges. Number 4, most bridges were used to create an energetic whole. Number 5, most of the time, this energetic whole was then used to build up into the final climax. Number 6, most bridges broke down to a single vocal line with only one instrument accompanying it. Number 7, 4 of the songs had instrumental breaks. Number 8, most of the bridges had a change of groove or feel. Point 2, I mentioned that this is the place to experiment. Unlike the chorus or the verse, when it comes to the bridge, everyone just kind of does whatever they feel is appropriate in their compositions. Change the energy, change the groove, change the harmony, change the melody, change the key, new lyrics, new rhymes, whatever they want. Or alternatively, just ignore it and don't use a bridge at all. The most common pattern though was creating the energetic whole to allow for a final climax to seem a lot bigger than it might otherwise be. I did mention this in point 1, but I think it's easy to argue that Cats in the Cradle's 4th verse acts in place of a bridge. I call it the 4th verse because it is the same as the other verses in so many ways. However, I'm including it in the bridge because it offers some awesome information that we'll find out later on in the video. Harmony. For the bridge harmony, 2 of the songs used a chord progression that we'd heard before perfectly, no changes whatsoever. Number 2, 2 of the songs chose to change key. Number 3, 2 of the songs introduced new chords. Number 4, 3 of the songs used a very slight variation on the harmony that we'd heard previously. I think this list sucks, so a different way to look at it is 6 of our songs did not change key, nor did they introduce any new chords. 5 of the songs either used the same chord progression that we'd already heard before, or something that was a very slight variation of it. Now, these numbers may look a little strange because there is some overlap. Show Me How to Live, for example, changes key, but then when the singing starts again, it goes back to a chord progression we've heard before. There are other examples of this, but given the content that I was working with, this list that you've seen is the best that I could do. Slipknot gets a special mention here because they were doing what I mentioned in the previous video, where they freely move between the minor modes as needed for the riff. This doesn't stop in the bridge. It goes from B Locrian to Phrygian and eventually lands on Dorian. But it also has a change of key where it goes to C major. No one else was willing to have this total disregard of the main key of their song. Generally, when there's a shift of harmonic content, whether that means new chords, a new key, a new chord progression, the use of less chords, it invites variation in the melody as well. Even though what we've found so far is relatively non-specific, I believe it's these little adjustments that lead to the big changes. You'll see what I mean later on. Melody. As mentioned previously, lots of these melodies broke down into a single vocal line with one instrument for accompaniment. Often this was used as a call and response, but occasionally it was used as a group vocals to support the main melody. The bridge melodies we came across were pretty simple. 3 of the melodies were heavily influenced by the verse, 1 of the melodies was heavily influenced by the chorus, and 4 of the melodies were brand new melodies. It's kind of funny though, going through the chorus, verse, and then now the bridge videos, each different video has its own area of attention. In the chorus video, we were essentially establishing what universe we were in. The verse had some pretty clear patterns of differentiation between the melody and the harmony with the chorus. But rolling into the bridge, things aren't so cut and dry. The harmony and melody is mostly familiar territory. But what's causing this huge shift that's so obvious into the bridge? If a bridge isn't a departure from the music that we've heard previously, then we're going to think that it's another verse or another chorus. But it's really obvious when we get to a bridge. The only thing we haven't really explored yet is rhythm. So I believe this is where the meat and potatoes of this video actually are. I mentioned at first that the bridge is the place to experiment. Throughout the whole song of Thriller, there is an endlessly repeating bass line with the occasional harmonic stab. Both the verse and the chorus have a very similar kind of vibe with this same bass line running through the whole thing. You hit the bridge, and for the first time in the song, the bass line actually changes. The chords go from being stabs and kind of short and sharp in a way to being long held chords that give us a harmonic palette that we have not yet heard in the song. Show Me How to Live has a consistent drum groove through the entire song up until halfway through the bridge. Then the drums stop entirely before they build back up into the same groove. It's the only place in the song that doesn't have the same groove. Can't Hold Us introduces a brass section break and then moves to like a crowd chant vocals. Both of these things have new harmonic and melodic material that we haven't heard yet. And the bridge is the only time in the whole song where we don't have a clearly danceable rhythm. Sure, there are other points in the song where the drums don't really play, but if the drums aren't playing, then there's the bass giving us that very clear groove. And if the bass isn't playing, then there's a piano giving us the very clear groove. Meanwhile, everywhere except for the bridge, we've got the rap going, so we know exactly the rhythm that we're supposed to be dancing to. Levitating was really unique because the bridge section wasn't really specific. There is a rap bridge. In a way, it's just kind of another verse. But immediately after this, it revisits the chorus. The same melody, the same harmony, everything, but we've just got a halftime feel underneath. I don't know which one is more of a bridge or if they both should be considered the bridge. They do really just feel like two different sections of a song. You put them together in this unique way, and then collectively they become the bridge. Counting Stars removes all instruments except for the vocals and clapping. But the claps are on eighth notes to keep up a high pace the whole time. However, the most interesting thing that I took away from all the rhythm in all of these songs was specifically about Thriller, Cats in the Cradle, Duality, and Counting Stars. Every single one of these songs has some cool stuff going on structurally. As Thriller finishes the second chorus, there is a 1-bar break. There is then 8 bars of a bridge, followed by 2 bars of a held chord. This chord is the 5/7. Or the dominant chord of the key. Holding this for 2 bars creates a lot of tension and a lot of space for us to anticipate going back into the verse. The rest of the song is just in groupings of 4. There's no random extra bar, there's no random extra sets of 2 held bars or whatever. Cats in the Cradle does that pseudo verse thing that I mentioned at the start of the video. But in this pseudo verse thing, it moves to a mixed meter feel. Instead of the 4/4 bars that we're used to, there's 1 bar of 4 and 1 bar of 6. Or to look at it another way, there's 2 bars of 4 and 1 bar of 2. These extra 2 beats only serve the purpose of allowing us extra time so that we can let the message of the song sink in, making sure that we've heard the lyrics that have just been sung and aren't distracted by other things. The main riff in Duality's bridge is in 4/4, but it's in groupings of 3. We get 2 groupings of 12 bars, the first being in B Locrian and the second being in C major. Once these 24 bars are done, there's a 5-bar musical moment where the song shifts from B Locrian to Phrygian to Dorian, as I mentioned previously in the video. Counting Stars has a relatively normal bridge right up until the end of the bridge, where they just throw in 3 extra bars. The first 2 of these bars are a rallentando, or a slowing down of tempo, and the third bar speeds it back up. This gives us a real looseness where we can bask in the beauty of the moment, or I like to imagine that weightless feeling that you get when you're on a roller coaster, right before you go back into the exciting thing. These 4 songs have shifted around the structure of the song for no reason other than to push and pull the energy. If you've got a 4-bar phrase that you play a variation where it's only got 3 bars, it will increase the energy. Likewise, if you have a 4-bar phrase that you extend out to 6, it's going to decrease energy. These 4 songs did a great job of sounding normal while pushing and pulling our energy. I love it. Summary. So what the fuck can we actually take away from all of this? Side note, it is actually really hard to not make sex jokes through the rest of this video. Pun intended. The bridge should feel like a release. We've spent all this time building up our energy to come close to a final climax, but we're not there yet. The bridge should help build anticipation for that climax. The bridge should feel familiar, and the bridge should have a feel change. If you get this feel change right, you may not need to change any of the harmonic or melodic content at all. And point number 5, bridges are a safe place to put a musical break. Prior to the bridge, we've spent the whole song building up to a specific emotional state. The bridge is here to give us some time to ruminate on this emotion. As we build back up to the final chorus, we should feel more strongly about this emotion. Because we've felt the emotion, we've then had some space from it and gone, hey, like, I kind of like that emotion, that was cool. And now we've got another opportunity to experience that emotion. And that's what a bridge should do. It should seduce us into that final chorus. I mentioned that creating this video caused a revelation in me. Even though I intuit most of these things, my previous summary of what a bridge was that it's different. Realistically, that's all you need to know. It is a shift away from anything that we've heard before in our song. But looking at these songs, I've realized that there are absolutely no rules and bridges are not even necessary. I've decided that I want to use my bridges as a place to experiment, a place to explore ideas that kind of seem a bit crazy, and eventually decide on something that's just going to make my chorus hit so much harder. A combination of extra beats or extra bars, or slowing down or speeding up, less instruments, or revisiting old melodies and harmonies. Sometimes simplicity may be the key, other times complication may be the wise choice. The options are endless, but from now I'm going to use my bridges as the space to see what I can get away with compositionally while still making it sound good. Anyway, with these 3 videos, we've now got a verse, a chorus, and a bridge. We've got a couple more videos like the pre and post chorus. We've got melody, we've got harmony, we've got lyrics, and we've got structure. And with those, we will have more than enough information to write pretty much any song we could ever think of. Who knows, maybe I'll get excited and start writing a song based on the rules we've learnt so far before completing those videos. Not sure what's going to happen yet, but you can expect to see those in the near future. Anyway, I'll see you for those. Bye.